Ozoru, thank you very much for the warm welcome and introductions. Let me also use this opportunity to welcome all of our participants this afternoon. We hope that more people would join in as we dialogue on this important subject today. I want to welcome everybody once again, and I also want to particularly welcome our speakers for today's webinar. We have one of them is here already, Mr. Umar Yakubu. Thank you so much for fitting this in to your very busy schedule. We really appreciate you at Madiba Foundation. Our second speaker, Mr. Fasua, will be joining us very, very shortly. He's currently trying to join in. So he sent his apologies that he will be in a few minutes late. So he will soon be here any minute now. And so just as my colleague Ozoru has mentioned, we're going to have conversation around the subject, and then there will also be an opportunity for participants, I'm sure, if we're able to manage our time very well, to also share their thoughts on this important subject that we are looking at today. Talking about the twin, I refer to them as twin evil, two major evils, confronting Nigeria presently: poverty and insecurity. And the first thing, that we're also going to be looking at, there's a recent report by NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics, disclosing that about 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor, a staggering number, which, far exceeds the projection of the World Bank. And so we're going to be looking at that, as well. And then we're also going to be getting perspectives as well on what the next administration must do to address these twin challenges. And then we also want to have conversation around what we must do as citizens as well, because where we are at now, we can't leave everything to the government or the leaders. I believe very strongly that we all have a role to play in addressing the myriad of challenges confronting us as a nation. So we're also going to be looking at that as well. In our last webinar series, we looked at, we spotlighted, the relationship, the vicious cycle between poverty and insecurity. And in that session, there was majority, about two of our speakers, agreed that there is a cause and effect relationship between poverty and insecurity. Mainly that, poverty in a way contributes to rising insecurity. And then where you also have rising insecurity, that also, fuels poverty. For instance, because of the insecurity that we have in different parts of the country, there's, we're having problem of food production, particularly because, of course, banditry, farmers and herders crisis, terrorism and all of that. So you can see the vicious cycle. And we're also going to be speaking more on that, because it will also be good to get the thoughts of our speakers on that, on that relationship between poverty and insecurity. And so you're all welcome. You're all welcome. And I want to say, please, Ozoru, as soon as our second speaker comes in, please alert me, let me know so I can acknowledge him and also, get him to be part of the conversation. All right, so to get the ball rolling, I think I would like this conversation to actually start from the Mr. Yakubu. Like I said, at our last webinar series, we looked at the nature of relationship that exists between poverty and insecurity. And so I would want you to speak into that. What do you think? What do you make of, the relationship between poverty and insecurity? I would like us to get started from there. Mr. Yakubu.
Okay, thank you to the Madiba Foundation. Okay, my video is on now. Thank you to the Madiba Foundation for inviting me. I'm actually pleased to be here. Based on your question, our poverty problems are well documented. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, our poverty problems are well documented. Nigeria has been having this challenge right from when we started recording data. But I'll just refer to the last statistics by the NBS, which they borrowed, rather, the multidimensional poverty index that was developed around 20 years ago, because there are different ways of measuring poverty. So let's stick to the multinational development poverty index, where it shows that out of an estimated 200 million people, about 133 are multidimensionally poor. Now, I like the word multidimensional because if you use the World Bank, it could stick to poverty being if you earn less than $2 a day or $1 a day or $1.8 a day. But when it's multidimensional, it looks at other aspects regarding healthcare, access to good education, even your own security. How secure are you in your country, or all the crimes that we commit? Excuse me. So these the aspects that the NBS report spoke about, and unfortunately, we have 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor. Now, clearly, the relationship with this is that your security is challenged. But when we talk about security here, we're not talking about just military security. In the terms of, I'll call it military / physical security. You see, for example, now Ukraine can be said to be unsecure. Why? Because they're being invaded or attacked by another country. Now, that is the normal definition of security within the political cycle. But there are other dimensions of security that we don't really look at, and that is clearly related to that multidimensional index. And one of them is the elements of national security. You have to look at your health security. Most of us today, most of the clinics we have, at least in Abuja that I know, if you are sick, if you don't have money to go abroad for any major disease, you're as good as gone. So you have to look at your economic security. What is your take home? How much do you make in a day or in a year or in a month? Now, that amount, can you survive on it? Can your family survive on it? These are the economic security issues we're talking about. There are a lot of jobless employed people. You are working by earning 20, 30,000 naira, just for as an example. Really, what does that do for you? So you're not secure in a way, economically, from the economic sense. So security is not really the aspect of there is no crime around you. So when you have these issues, these are the things that drive people to commit crime. And even Nigeria as a country is surrounded by neighbors where all sorts of things, all the contemporary security issues we have come from the border. Example, we are talking about murder, Boko Haram, crime rate, all the things that have to do with violence. Now, Nigeria does not produce arms. It means all the arms that are coming in through the borders. So you see, because we have not properly secured our land borders, which we have over 1,000 routes, we have not properly secured the sea, the ports, and all of that. You see that we have security challenges here. So the major driver the major driver of insecurity is actually poverty. It's a major driver because people need to survive. And in trying to survive, they will now look at all these other aspects of it becomes an opportunity for them to commit crime. And especially where you have a weak criminal justice system that does not attend or address crime properly, you find that they see that it's more profitable to commit crime and get away with it. I make much money. That is why people go into cybercrime instead of going to do normal jobs. So these are just there's a direct relationship between the two. And if you actually look at a lot of countries, especially in Western Europe, where the level of poverty is low, meaning their multidimensional poverty index is low, they have access to healthcare, access to education, access to all those things, you find out that the level of crime in all aspects is low. There are countries that are closing down their prisons. But if you go there, you find out they have almost everything. Yes, they'll have criminals, definitely. But they are closing down their prisons because people are not committing crime, because almost everything works. So that's just to address your question. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I mean, you have succinctly established, that there is a relationship between poverty and insecurity. And of course, you've also helped us break down the different kinds of security that we should start looking out for. I mean, you're talking about we should not look at security solely from criminality dimension, that we have other aspects of security that we should also start focusing on, which, the new report, the multidimensional index, has taken into cognizance. Thank you for that. The other thing that I would like you to, speak into is how very quickly, to you, how fair would you say the report is? Because I know one or two people have raised, issues around it. And someone actually wrote and said that the government is like an own goal, for the federal government. How fair would you say the assessment, this current statistic by the MDS is?
Yeah, what the MBS simply did is they did not develop the multidimensional poverty index, if I'm correct. It was developed by two researchers in 2010. I think they are World Bank staff, Mr. Santos and Alhiri, if I'm correct. So they developed the methodology where they incorporated a deviation from the World Bank definition. So where they now incorporated these other elements of access to healthcare, access to education, access to services, all these things. So all the MBS can do, I'm not sure, but what I suppose they did was to take that methodology and assess it. And I think 56,000 homes or so were assessed within our own in Nigeria. So it's just to use that methodology and assess those 56,000 homes, which are the sample size now, and bring out this data. So I think it's actually fair. I like that methodology instead of saying $2 per day, because you now earn, let's even assume it's $10 per day in Nigeria. $10 per day today is bank rate, let's say 5,000 naira. With this inflation rate, the way it's going, really what can 5,000 naira do? So that's why, but the methodology focuses more on access to these things because these are the foundations of development. If you look at Bill Gates Foundation, he spends a lot of money on nutrition, and most people don't understand why he's spending money on nutrition, because when you give birth to a child from 0 to 5 years old, there's certain elements of nutrition that if he does not get, it affects his cognitive function for the rest of his life. That is why you find out most poor countries that are not doing so well, they are more dominated by the political class because they can't really think. They don't think through of what they're supposed to do. And what is causing that problem? They didn't have eggs or cheese or whatever they were supposed to have, the adequate nutrition that you're supposed to have between 1 and 5. You have already lost it. So your cognitive functions is already deficient. That is why you find that the poorer the country is, the more dominant that their leaders dominate them. They tell us anything, I will take a hook, line, and sinker, because we're not really thinking. It's no fault of ours. It's biological, what I'm explaining to you. So it's actually a fair assessment, and it gives you room to now address the issues, especially if you have tied your poverty issue with the security issue. So now it tells you, okay, now if you solve the healthcare problem, this is where you get. If you solve the education problem, this is where you get. If you solve access to justice, these are the solutions, how you can even prevent crime. So I think it's a fair assessment that the world actually should adopt. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Let me dive a little bit deeper into the issue of security as we know it, security as we know it. President Buhari has continued to maintain that his administration has done its best in addressing insecurity in Nigeria. What would you say to that? Would you say that on the current circumstances, conditions, that indeed this administration has done its best to curb insecurity in all its forms, particularly its current forms, such as banditry, terrorism, kidnapping now, of course, which is also related to banditry. We also have some people who we will not refer to as bandits, but have also taken to kidnapping as a means of making a living. And of course, we also, in addition to these three major insecurity forms, of course, we also have violent crimes and also petty criminality here and there that no longer even make it to the news anymore because of these major forms of insecurity that the country is contending with. So what would you, how would you assess the current administration in its fight against insecurity?
Well, I'll not, in answering that, I'll not limit it to this administration. Take it back right from even 1999, even pre-1999, maybe it's a hangover from the military regime. We are still treating security issues as a military, with a military solution. How many guns can you buy? How many people can you jail? How many people can you kill when you have not solved the hunger problem? It is nature, conflict theory. People, there will be conflict, people will try to survive. So as they're trying to survive, looking for ways to earn a living, either legitimate or illegitimate. On one side, you are buying heavy arms, spending so much money. And if you look at the data from, let's even take from 2015 till date, when President Buhari came on board, our budget on security, our spending on buying arms, ammunition, welfare for our security personnel and all that increases every year. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the security doesn't seem to reduce. That tells you, yes, it's a good strategy, but it's a multidimensional approach. The way you have the multidimensional poverty index, to solve the security problem of Nigeria, you have to apply the multidimensional approach. As long as we are having our current, not presently, our current corruption levels, where most of the resources are going to a few people, are not being invested in healthcare, in education, and other things that I spoke about earlier, you are still going to be giving birth to so many people that have nothing to do. And what are you going to do? Continue shooting them? For how long? So on one side, you are ballooning your spending, your expenditure on security architecture, but you are not solving the other problem, which is not really the problem of the state government alone. It's actually a problem too, mainly of local government at the subnational level and state governments. You are not solving the poverty level at the states. And federal government is doing all the other bombardment and other things. We are just going to enter into a hole of more spending, where you create a war economy, where you just be buying arms and people will be making money, all these deals will be going on, but you have not solved the major problem. So the approach must be multidimensional. You have to solve poverty problem. What are the enablers of those poverty? What leads to them? Which some are short-term, some medium-term, some long-term. Education is long-term, it doesn't end. So if you don't solve those problems on that side, you are going to continue spending your money buying arms, and it's not going to end. So that is just my approach. So it's not really related to this administration. I think it's probably maybe a hangover from the military, or I don't know why everything about security we're only looking at physical security, when there are several other dimensions that are supposed to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for, for broadening the question and also even broadening the conversation around security. But I mean, it's really good that you've talked about the multidimensional approach that is required to be able to tackle and address insecurity in Nigeria. And you've also mentioned the trillions of naira that we have budgeted for that aspect of addressing insecurity in Nigeria. Another thing I want to talk about, even though you said that that's not the only solution that we have, it's a question. I just want to get your thoughts on this, because I believe that every approach, that we employ or deploy in addressing the issue, should kind of produce a measure of impact, so to speak. Even though you've hinted around corruption, would you say that the money that have been budgeted over the years for security, particularly to the military and other, security architecture that we have been justifiably used? That's one. The other side of the question is also that there was a lot of, we had a lot of calls on President Buhari to, replace service chiefs, from time to time when the insecurity persisted at some point, but, nothing was done in that regard. So what's your take? What's your take on even the strategy, that we're employing in the area of, trying to support the military to address the insecurity problem that we have?
Yeah, same thing. Excuse me. Same thing I was saying. You have 133 million people that are poor, that don't have access to education, healthcare, or even food. Let's not even go too deep. You are now pumping 1 trillion naira per year on buying arms. Civil society like you and I are pushing for the change of service chiefs. They have changed them. Haven't they changed them? They have changed them. Some people use big statements like reorganize the security architecture. Okay, people have retired. I know several generals have retired. New ones have come. Really, has much changed, Mr. Frederick? And I'll tell you the answer for me is no. And why things have not changed is because we have not defined the problem properly. We see security as a physical issue, that the moment you buy arms, armed soldiers and police and civil defense everywhere, somehow you are going to stop 133 potential people, because they are potentially violent people, those 133. So those arms are going to potentially stop 133 million people from committing crime. It cannot work. It has not worked anywhere, with even countries that have the military budget that are 100 times our own, in fact, 1,000 times our own. It has not worked. So the only way is we need to solve the poverty problem together with the military solution. That's why sometimes they say kinetic approach and non-kinetic approach. We have to solve use the military solution depending on the type of crime, because we have even forgotten that actually domestic security is the function of the police, but somehow it has been taken over by the military and so on and so forth. But anyway, you have to solve the poverty problem using even the multi-dimensional poverty index as a guide. Solve the poverty problem or manage it as you're managing it, be investing in these things, then you cannot do them together. That is why you can see, I think about 2 months ago, Channels had this graph about the spending, military spending, and the graph went upwards like this. So much money. And now when you go to Ministry of Finance, not even the budget, the releases. That sector has one of the highest level of releases. They are releasing 80-90% of the funding. So we don't have a funding problem. If we are talking about manpower, you have 200 million people. When are you ever going to have enough policemen to secure the whole country? You're never going to have enough. So you have to start investing in technology, I'm even digressing to that area, but we have to solve the poverty problem. What we have for Nigeria is actually a poverty issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our second speaker is Fasua. We're excited to have you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you very much for, I know you've been traveling. Thank you for obliging us and fixing us into your very busy schedule. You're welcome, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. We've been having conversation around, we've talked about the recent MBS report. And I know you've done a piece on it. I just saw the piece not too long ago, and I started reading it. I've not finished it. Like we said the last time, it's a whole mini book. So I'm still taking my time, to read it. But interestingly, from what I have read so far, you were sharing, certain thoughts on the report itself. But I would like you to share your thoughts on it. Mr. Yakubu has shared his thoughts on it, and he's also talked about, how that the multidimensional framework to looking at poverty is so far is better, than just looking at the benchmark, against the dollar that we've been using prior to now. So we'd like you to just share your thoughts on the report, and then also possibly speak on why has poverty rates continue to rise in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll just speak in staccato version. I mean, in a staccato manner. So, it may be all over the place, but I'll try. The first thing is that I am not totally in consonance with that report. As tempting as it is to take the side of that report, which of course itself was put together by MBS, and MBS is official, and they probably have no reason to want to put out a bad report that would tarnish the government. It's a very bad scenario. 133 million out of 200 million plus or minus being in multidimensional poverty. And even if it was true, because I personally, I question everything, like perhaps as the Bible said, and then you look for the truth and hold on to it. If it were true, I question whether Nigeria's population is up to 120 million itself, because in every election that we have held, we've not been able to corroborate, or as they say in academic circle, to triangulate that number, given other sources. Elections are a good one, and we know that politics has eaten into a lot of these things, and people have put up all sorts of numbers in order to get big allocation from FARC, in order to put themselves in political position and all of that stuff, so that's one. However, the number should also not be misinterpreted. When you talk about multidimensional poverty, I think basically what it is just an indication of lack of infrastructure, because it doesn't mean that 133 million people are hungry and moving all over the place in a state of distress in Nigeria. That will not be true. Simply, that will not be true. It probably just means that, perhaps that almost all of us in Nigeria are lacking in one thing or the other. Maybe there are not enough hospitals, there are not enough schools for those who want to attend, or the teachers in those schools are not enough in terms of number, the quality of education, the quality of healthcare, the quality of roads infrastructure, the quality of transport infrastructure, and all. That's what I believe, that's how I interpret that report, not that people are in serious distress. Listen, I'm in the UK right now, so I'm talking to you, and the truth is that, the life here is different. I've probably walked 10 kilometers today, including running. right? So Nigerians aren't used to such things. So there's a way we also judge things in our country. I think that we should be less hard on ourselves and give ourselves an opportunity to find ourselves, because what I've seen so far is that Nigerians have become very nihilistic, and we take an extreme position. We speak as if it will never come to pass that we would emerge and make something of ourselves. We sort of swing between two extremes. Either we're complaining so badly about how Nigeria is rubbish, or when we have 2 naira, 3 naira in our pocket, we go on a binge, we throw a party, we spray money, we stamp on the money, we mutilate the money, which try to show that we have arrived. The same Nigerians. So I think that our academicians, our psychologists have gone to sleep. They could have helped us to probably profile who is a Nigerian, and how can that Nigerian change for the better. All right, that's my thinking as far as that report is concerned. But of course, the truth is also that there's poverty in Nigeria, like I said earlier on. What the numbers we were used to before now was something around 70 million. And I mean, if you look at the World Poverty Index, it's still doing about 73 million or thereabouts. And that's actually the highest in the world. And that is embarrassing enough. So 133 million. But again, I'm not in government, so let the government people worry about it. It's from government to government. Let them worry about whatever that number means to them. But there's still poverty in Nigeria, like I said. And even if it was 73 million, even if it was 50 million, there's a need for us to do something about it. And you could take the approach of say, okay, listen, what have other countries done? The two things, okay, what have other countries that have taken a lot of people out of poverty, what have they done to take their people out of poverty? What approach did they use? And I'm going to talk about some of those, shortly. Or you could also look at, maybe this poverty. How do we basically go about it and all of that? In terms of looking at what other countries have done, you look at countries like maybe India, China, and of late Morocco. I was in Morocco about 2-3 weeks ago, and it's surprising. And I wasn't surprised that their football team is busy beating so many countries. Because even under a monarchy, there's a big thing going on in Morocco. They've managed to conquer issues of nutrition. On the day I got there, I stayed in a place called Mohammedia. The beach was free for everybody to go. You need to see the number of teams of young, small boys, from small to teenagers, playing football on that field. I was like, wow, these people. And I looked at those children. They didn't look like they were really, really hungry. So they've done something in Morocco. And another thing I noticed, in Casablanca, was that, look, there were rows and rows and rows of flats, built up flats, about 3-story buildings. Everybody in Morocco lives in a flat. There's no look, Nigeria is there. It's a shame on us indeed. In Abuja, where I live, you see that even shanties are encroaching the runway of our international airport. All right, they're building into the wrong way. It's embarrassing that you're coming to a place like Nigeria and the first thing you see are those shanties. It's a shame. That means we actually don't have a vision for ourselves about what our country should look like. And so you cannot blame these poor people who are just trying to survive. The average thing, the normal thing in Nigeria now is somebody hustles, tries to make ends meet one way or the other. The day he has 200,000 naira, he talks to one village chief, the village chief gives him a land. The day he has 10,000 naira, he begins to dig the ground. The day he has 50,000, he does some part of the foundation. And at the end of the day, he's going to spend 3 million or 4 million, and some kind of house will be standing there, but It is illegal. Illegal, it's unplanned. And then one day, one minister will come and say, listen, yeah, you guys should not build. So what were you looking at? And then you're going to destroy that 3 million, that hard-earned 3 million. Why are we destroying value? Because we don't have a policy to say this is what we want to do. So that's as far as Morocco. That's the lesson I saw from Morocco was somehow, in fact, I could see areas, old house, everywhere started from ancient to modern, So there were areas where there were very old houses, old style buildings. all of them being demolished and all of that, and new flats on the other side, they were being resettled. You know, if you say to Nigerians now that, listen, we want to move you out of some parts of Niger Delta, they'll say, no, this is our ancestral home. So one of the biggest challenges we're going to have with solving the, eradicating this poverty will be the people themselves. Okay, the people themselves.
Yeah, Mr. Fasua.
Do I have a time limit? I haven't even started.
Yeah, I know, Mr. Fasua, but let me just, you're coming into an interesting dimension of this, and I just want to ask a question that would help, crystallize where you're coming into right now. One of the things I have seen, and I think during one of our recent chats, I hinted on that, is the fact that we tend to have use a simplistic approach to understand our problems. And as a result, we then tend to use a simplistic approach to also provide solutions. And it's still in line with where you're going, your thought, right now. What would you say, to you? You started talking about the people now, but what would you say very quickly, is the reasons behind the rising poverty rate, beyond the simplistic.
Well, there could be several things. I'm an economist. I'm an economist, econometrician, statistician. The way we look at things from several perspectives. So one of it may be that the population is rising faster than the economy is growing, or that the economic growth is not well distributed, and that a few people are making the money. Okay, that's another thing. In fact, the two could be happening together. Population rising faster, than the economy is growing itself, or the little growth that we're seeing in the economy is concentrated among a few people, a few 100,000 people, maybe living in some parts of the urban area. Number three could be that we're urbanizing more. So what you have is urban poverty. And of course, the numbers in the rural areas, I think I have a challenge with the numbers we put out. I'm not particularly sure that 60% of Nigerians are still living in the rural area. There's no incentive for them to live in the rural areas where there's no light. Look, in parts of Ondo State where I'm from, in the riverine area where even with the crude oil we have in Ondo State is from, there are communities that haven't seen a light in the last 10 years or more. So I don't quite believe that people will just sit down in those places. They go to Lagos, they go to anywhere, they go to Ibadan, they come to Abuja, they go to Kaduna, they go to Kano, they go to Port Harcourt, Enugu, wherever, So those are the things. I would usually challenge these numbers, okay? So you can look at any of those, including mismanagement, including corruption, okay? When you have the little money that is being had in the country, moving in one direction, people sending the money abroad to go and stash in accounts, or they're putting it in their soakaway or their overhead tanks, naturally, poverty will increase. And of course, I think overall is the fact that there's no strategy and there's no honest strategy, if I may put it that way, to say that this is what we're doing to eradicate poverty. There are no big ideas. And I've been talking about big ideas. The housing thing I'm talking about in Morocco is a big idea. If you go to China, all right, what they have is they have what they call the Targeted Poverty Eradication Program. And of course, I'm still going to write about that specifically, the lessons from there. But what I can see, I've seen President Xi Jinping get into his car and go up the hills. In China, there are some terrains that are crazy. And he manages to get there, he sits with the people, he asks them what their issues are, and they document those people. So what they've done, and what's called targeted, is that every family is documented. And they will document you, and they will know what are your problems. Is it disease? Is it illiteracy? Is it jobs that they need? Is it whatever? And then they target it specifically. And of course, another big lesson is that the private sector, whether in Morocco or in China, the private sector is involved. So you see that. So I'm optimistic that look, we can paint a picture and bring in the private sector. The private sector in Morocco are the ones building those houses. They may not be able to make more than 10% profit, rather than making 50% profit. In Nigeria, what we have seen in the private sector involvement in the real estate sector is that they've built a lot of luxury houses everywhere. In Abuja alone, there are more than 500,000 houses, by my own estimate, that are in different stages of abandonment. Either abandoned estates or the one they built, but everybody wants to talk about luxury in Nigeria instead of us talking about basics. Everything is luxury, luxury, luxury. So it's also about the way we think. So look at so there's no big idea. There's no particularly big idea and deliberate idea and a sustainable idea around this eradicating poverty in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, the truth is this, that many times the leaders don't believe that that poverty should go. Many times they believe that, look, let's keep these people where they are. Or maybe they believe that the people cannot handle it. Number two is also that a lot of times to the people themselves, of course, the leaders come from among the people. So so the people themselves are not even thinking in terms of, living a better life. Most people will not live. Go to Ijora Badia today, or some of the ghettos in Abuja, Gishiri and all of that. Many people don't want to leave that scenario. They're just okay there. Like life is about, drink in the evening, do whatever it is they want to do. And that's it. So there's a need for an education, a kind of mass mobilization behind the poverty challenge that we have as well. So, we can learn from outside. We can also look at the psychology behind poverty and see how we can begin to solve it. In India, what they did was, I mentioned the Swachh Bharat. The Swachh Bharat was the Clean India. Their PM, the Prime Minister, now he's been there for maybe 7-8 years or so. He's a fantastic guy. He gets criticized a lot. They said he has a Hindu agenda. He's Hinduizing everywhere and all of that. People will always, the thing about leadership is no matter what you do, people will always complain. But this man came with what's called the Swachh Bharat, Clean India, and he put himself into it that, look, India has a bad reputation as a very dirty place. Now we have to clean this place up. He got out there, carried the shovel himself, brought all the Amitabh Bachchan, Amir Khan, all of those Nollywood idols, brought them behind him. The people saw that something was happening. And then they had a problem with open defecation. And in the night, usually the women will not go to the bathroom until the night. And then they will go inside the bush. Inside the bush, they get bitten by snakes, stung by scorpions, and rapists hijack them and all of that. He told them, listen, instead of you keeping gold, and Indians are very much into gold, so why don't you sell your gold and build a bathroom? Over 100 million bathrooms have been built in India. Bill Gates was there in 2019. And he said about that program that this was the biggest behavioral change project in modern history. That is something, and imagine if you were building 100 bathrooms, the amount of cement you'll have to use, porcelain materials, all sorts of things, plumbing materials, the jobs you create for plumbers. No wonder India is growing at 8%. Even now, they're thinking about 8.5%, whereas Nigeria is still talking about 3%, 2%, and all of that, and we're rejoicing. And so, we need a vision as well that will say that the economy of Nigeria can grow in double digits and what have you. So it's a combination of several things that could go on and on. Maybe I should leave it at this point, and I would let you know something. At the top of the hour, I'll be gone for 10 minutes, then I'll come back in case your discussion is still going on. So I can talk for the next 8 minutes or something. You can engage.
All right. So before you go, before then, let's the other question that I would like you to quickly speak into. Maybe I should just ask the two questions so that you can address them before you go and then come back. So by the time you're back, you probably would then have questions from the participants. So the two-in-one question. One is, what should the next administration do? What should they focus on to address the problem? The other one that I also want you to include is, earlier on, you spoke about the organized private sector, that it's not only the problem of the government, that the organized private sector should also be involved. How should the organized private sector, participate in helping to solve the problem of poverty?
I'll answer the question because they are linked. I'll answer them all at once together. Like I said before, the OPS of the organized private sector, has a role to play. And I also said that the government must think of big ideas. And therefore, the organized private sector can also lend those big ideas to government, okay? But if their vision, all right, like they say, if your vision is 1 year, you can plant flowers. If your vision is 10 years, you can plant trees. If your vision is eternity, you have to develop the people. You have to cultivate the people. So, we also see, unfortunately, I'm not very happy because from what I've seen in this political season, that Nigerians would rather their own person develops the country than anybody else. So the focus is not who can develop the country, all right? The issue is, is he my person? Is he my tribe? Is he my brother? Is he from my religion? Is he, the bottom line is to develop the country. So we haven't actually got in touch with our humanity, the human factor. Of course, the truth is this, we can criticize the governments on hand, the governments that have come over time. But what I think the youth should also be learning is that leadership is not easy. It's never a straight line affair, to say, the moment you get there, things will just be working. No way, it never does like that. And therefore, I'm not sure that the young people are preparing themselves for leadership the way they should. That's the thing. Listen, I hit the nail on the head. I'm not afraid to say it the way it is. You know what I'm saying? So the young people who could also drive the process, who should be driving the process in 5 years or 10 years, are not preparing themselves. If they were, they would not be putting out a lot of the nihilistic, extreme, ideas about Nigeria. When you go out there and you're saying so many bad things about Nigeria, it's a useless country, it's going to collapse tomorrow, you want to jackpot out of the country and all of that, you don't know that the so-called investors that they say they're looking for are hearing all of those things, they're seeing them, and they're using it to decide what to do with your country. So Nigeria is totally cut out of the flow of non-debt resources in the world right now. Our government needs to go around, cap in hand, begging people all over the place, begging, so-called investors who have even, the funds that they have is even predatory funds. They want too high an interest rates on it. And those guys, when they will move out, in fact, most of what our government is getting is portfolio investment in stock market or bond market. They are just happy that dollar will come. You see, all our finance ministers and the rest of them will always talk about, let the dollar just come. We're looking for dollar as if we're junkies. It's like, you're just jonesing looking for dollars anyhow. The issue is not to look for dollar. What is the dollar coming for? Is it staying? What industry is it building? Number two, almost all of us are kind of wired, okay, to live for the moment. We're not thinking about, okay, how can we start from the scratch? What can we manufacture ourselves? What can we do ourselves and perfect it? What's wrong with making mistakes? We're not very good with making mistakes. If somebody makes a mistake, we mock them, and so we're not experimenting what we should be experimenting. We're not allowing our youth. And also, I wrote in my last article, I wrote about big ideas. And one of those big ideas is when I said, listen, I've been saying it for a while. Let the students of our universities and polytechnics begin to try their hands on developing their country with what they are learning. Okay, if you're learning engineering, civil engineering, at least by year 3, you should be building something in a group, be tarring some road or, building a road in your community, in one village, no matter how small, even if it's 10 meters or 20 meters road, put your signboard there. This was done by the student of so university, year 2, year 3. Let the next set come and extend that road and maintain that road, design the road. But no, and then of course you have to pay those students. So now that we're talking about universities can no longer be free. Universities can no longer be free. The idea of free university, federal government owning a university is a colonial idea. It's a colonial and military idea. In those days, the colonial masters were going to say, oh, these people will benefit from a university. Remember, they're taking us from, a totally different kind of environment in terms of thinking. Now they are integrating us with the way the world is thinking, the powerful countries in the world, which are the colonizers, including the US, which was not very big on colonialism, but was a major economy upcoming as at that point in time. And so they felt we needed a university, so they built it, and they built another one in Ife. But the point is that should the federal government continue building universities, hundreds of them, and then every month the universities will line up with other local government and all of that, and they'll be giving them money, and then the day they don't give them, you go on strike. Why is the academia not taking their head out of the butts of the government? You stick your intellectual head, include your brain, you hand it over to federal government. No, the universities should be independent. There should be a process of working out the total independence of those universities. If it was possible for the professors to do a management buyout, put up the money and buy it off. But the one thing is this, the whole idea that universities should be there so that the children of the poor can go to university. There's a time when you have to draw the line on some of those things. Just like you draw the line on things like federal character. Just like you draw the line on things like what they call the one in South Africa, black empowerment and all of that. You have to draw the line. When you put those things, there has to be a timeline to say, okay, after this point in time, it will be no more. Let everybody be efficient and stand on their own. So bottom line is this: big ideas. The government has to look for big ideas. The private sector can readily, but the private sector must shelve the whole idea of maxing out profit, making mega profit. They are too used to mega profits in Nigeria. And the youth themselves must begin to strap up and stop demarketing your country. Be proud of what you have. Every country struggled. Even this corruption problem we have in the United States, where we copied from, the presidential system of government was corrupt, is still corrupt. It's because that we don't learn history, that we don't know, and then we speak in the spur of the moment. We say, oh, the country is the most useless country in the world because it's corrupt. Our country is not as corrupt as what is today as US was in the 20s and 30s. Many of the people we heard, including people like John F. Kennedy's father, was a bootlegger. A lot of them were sponsoring people into political positions if they didn't want to go themselves. Many of them were bribing people to vote. The blacks were being bribed to vote. People were voting 2-3 times in the United States. People will stand at the polling booth and be handing out cigarettes and pork, for people to vote for. What are we talking about? We speak as if it's the end of history. It's not the end of history. It's not the end of life. In fact, that country, Nigeria, has not even started. You watch and see what will happen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll be back shortly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tope Fasua. I mean, he speaks so.
Dr. Tope Fasua, but except you have derobed me. Bye-bye.
No, please. Apologies. Dr. Tope Fasua. Thank you for for all of the nuggets and the points that you have put out. And honestly, these points are really, really, really important. And I must say this, that it's really important for us to actually be able to come to the table with diverse positions, and then find that point of point of agreement, to be able to address all of these challenges that are confronting us. And one of the things I said that stood out very strongly is the issue of demarketing our country. And I think each and every one of us, particularly young people, we need to rethink, because we're in an age of, social media where whatever you put out, out there actually goes very far. So we need to rethink, what we say about our country. And of course, he spoke about, the need for the private sector, to be part of it and all. And I'm sure by the time he comes back, I would like him to speak more specifically into what the government in specific terms should be doing, particularly the next administration. And so right now, let's quickly come back to Mr. Yakubu to talk to us about what the next administration should focus on in addressing our security challenges, and also what the role of the citizens ought to be as well. Because one of the things
Okay. Second. Okay. I think what Mr. Frederick and the last speaker just, it was more of commentary. And the question Mr. Frederick was asking is what the next government should do in trying to, can you hear me? Okay, I'll mute myself. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, what the government should try to do,
Yes,
the next government should try to do in addressing the security and poverty challenges we have. For me, they are multidimensional, like I said earlier on, but the first thing that we need to do is to actually restructure the country. And restructuring in the sense, not from the political sense where people are all talking about restructure the country, divide the country. No, not from that angle. From a security perspective, when you now devolve powers to the states and local governments and give them more responsibility, when they know the only way they can survive is from whatever they generate, the income they generate from their own resources, human resources and natural resources, that they're going to manage it, and it is what they use, they feel that they will have the responsibility to ensure that those things are safe. The federal government is taking too much on the shoulders. So restructuring the country where the states will be responsible for the security issues. When we're at a war with another country, God forbid, which would, then it becomes a national problem. It's a foreign policy issue. So we need to restructure the country where the states cannot decide whatever kind of mechanism they will have in terms of state police, local government vigilante, whatever they want to do, let them have it. That's the first thing I would say we should do, where the next government should do restructure. Yes, all the presidential candidates, I think, have been speaking about it, but from a political angle, let us restructure the country so that the state governors will be fully responsible for the security of their citizens. The second thing, in the short term, before that happens, we could decentralize the policing system. Right now, it's over-centralized. That's in theory. Because even in practice, every commissioner of police, I'm telling you, takes a lot of instructions from the state governor. During politics, you don't hear these issues. But it's only after politics you will hear them talking about, no, we have to take instructions from the IG and whatnot. So for now, we can decentralize and give a lot of powers to the state police and do it in a proper way. Now, if you do that, yes, the federal government can decide to support all those that have decided to decentralize, to give them more powers, more resources, like I don't have enough resources. So we give them enable technology. The most important thing is to use technology as an enabler. Now, instead of sending 500 policemen to man, let's say Kaduna Abuja Road, you can use a drone, 2 drones that can man the whole space and give you real-time coverage of what's going on there. Instead of putting the lives, endangering the lives of the policemen, you can utilize technology in so many ways. Then the fourth thing is right now there is poor coordination. This is global, it's a global problem. Security agencies do not like to cooperate, but you have to do your best where you ensure that there's a lot of collaboration. So we either have maybe a new Ministry of Homeland Security. I'm not trying to balloon our budget because our current expenditure is already too high. Or you convert maybe the Ministry of Interior now to Homeland Security, or you have a national security agency. Maybe you convert the President ONSA, Office of National Security Advisor, to a full-fledged national security agency where the sole purpose is the coordination of intelligence and the implementation of the national security strategy. Now, because we have a good document, a national security strategy, but you can't implement it, or it has been poorly implemented because of this problem I'm talking about. There's no coordination, and you cannot prevent the security issue if you do not have coordination. But if you have that national security agency, all those other things about healthcare, I spoke about education, and the social issues will all come there. So for now, these are the immediate things I think the next government should do, pending when answer the next question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakubu. Let me just ask this quick follow-up question. Please, what your last point about coordination? You mentioned Office of the National Security Advisor. Is that not what the office is supposed to do or is doing?
Okay, legally speaking, there is nothing like the Office of the National Security Advisor. You can go and check the laws. The National Security Advisor is an SA, like any SA, you know, SA on media, SA on logistics, whatever SA. But somehow we have the office. Now, it's difficult when you don't have the legal framework backing an office. Operationalizing it becomes a problem. The office has been there, that is true. But now the coordination is difficult because they don't, to coordinate all the security agencies, intelligence agencies, and even the non-intelligence agencies. Customs could be very important in border security, just like immigration. It becomes difficult. So it's good to create an agency and give it the legal power and legal backing it deserves. That's why I said you can either convert the office now or give it the legal backing, call it an agency, because if it's an advisor, it means it's still an advisor. That is why in the US, they merged the two. He's the advisor to the president, and he could also be the DG or head of the National Security Agency, which we don't have. We have the NIA for external, the DSS for internal, the police for general issues, the civil defense for economic crime issues, and so on and so forth. Now, who coordinates? They will say on the answer, but he doesn't have the power. And that is why it's so difficult. Even during President Jonathan, when General Aliu Gusau was much more senior in the army ranking to Azazi and Co., they were not really listening to him. Okay, that was before. Yeah, they were not really listening to him. Maybe because of that army hierarchy thing is esprit de corps, it was working. But you can see right now, there's really poor coordination, really poor coordination. You say it's the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense cannot coordinate the non-security, non-military agencies, you know. So you have to have that somebody. You are not giving Interior, a Minister of Interior, you are not telling him to do civil defense, immigration, and what have you, but you have not excluded other agencies that are not under Interior. So it's from the legal framework and the institutional framework to even address these issues that is very key. That will coordinate all these issues on security. And now when I'm talking about major security, I'm talking about the physical security aspect. But when you now have a national security strategy, here now you cannot incorporate all other elements of healthcare. Somebody importing, let's say codeine. We have a drug problem in Nigeria now. It's evolving. Now that is a function of our ports and of our ports. Who are those that are supposed to be responsible? The Nigerian Ports Authority are supposed to be there. The customs are supposed to be there. But you see, there are not security organizations. Now, if you don't have somebody that will coordinate that aspect properly, instead of just posting policemen there and posting customs officers and DSS, it has not really worked. When you have a proper coordination at that place where we have an agency doing it, you find out that you have solved a drug problem using a security measure at the port or at the borders. All our arms, like I told you, are coming in from outside. All our arms, almost the locally made small and light weapons constitute less than 5 to 10%. So who's responsible? You see, you need immigration here. You might need the airports. All this, so that's why I said it has to be more comprehensive. We have a nice document in National Security Strategy, but you need a proper driver. We need a proper driver of the strategy. I think that's the question, right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I mean, the point you just made now is quite important, you know, just even focusing on the military, the kinetic approach to ensuring security. Do you think, I mean, you've been in the civil society space for a while now, you're very active in the space. Do you think it's something that the civil society should take on in terms of pushing for a legal framework to be able to have that office? do you think it's an assignment or a task that civil society organizations should take on?
Hello, okay. Yeah, it could be useful, but I'll prefer civil society before doing that or while doing that. We need to do a lot of advocacy on seeing the national security problem, not only as a physical security problem. When we talk about access to healthcare, access to education, these are the security issues. Access to decent housing, they're most of all very important. When I mean very important, I can't stress this enough. Access to justice, because a lot of the injustice that is going on, it is what is breeding most of the conflict we have. Global conflict around the world, 70 to 75% is because of the poor criminal justice system. So when there's access to justice and speedy dispensation of justice, you find out. So I think that advocacy should precede about the advocacy about creating a national security agency. Why I'm being careful about this before it becomes a political issue. And this one I say, it's my work, that one is not my work, and all that. They know it ought to be done. So it's a good thing that there is any report you see on security in Nigeria, most of them that have come out, you see poor coordination, lack of coordination. Most of them, you see the first, second, or third item of the outcome of that report. You see 1, 2, 3. Just go and check any security report you see on Nigeria. Poor coordination, poor this. So now it has been going and nothing much has been done about it. And I believe it's because we don't have the right legal framework to do that. The answer is not legally supposed to do that. It has happened in some regimes. It has not happened, yes. But legally speaking, we have to have either whatever they want to call it. I just use the name, maybe because that's the name in the US, National Security Agency. They can call it whatever they want to call it, to have that national security infrastructure that will coordinate all the agencies in terms of security issues. And this thinking stems from, let's say in the US, the country, they see the survival of the country as a national security issue. The survival itself is a national security issue. So that's why they don't joke with their healthcare. They don't joke with their they don't joke with their education. So many things. I can coordination between security agencies. The same thing, either the first or the second. That was the 9/11 report, sorry. What they saw was a poor coordination among security agencies. So that needs to be developed in Nigeria, and we deepen it and enhance it. And I can tell you, once we improve this coordination with a good agency or body that is legally mandated to do so, and heavily deploy technology, I can't emphasize it enough, a lot of our physical security problems will be solved. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Please, you stay on. We'd like you to to respond to this question about how to ensure more children are kept in schools to reduce the out-of-school numbers, which will curb the use of the imported arms across our borders. Which I know you've also, you've mentioned that aspect as well. So please, if you can quickly respond to that, that would be great. And also there's a question ahead of that. How do we engage young people, and all of that, approaching the issue from the angle of young people, from the angle of education?
Okay, from the last question, I can see it. Yeah. How do you engage young youth? Suggested. What I'll recommend youth to do, I think our youth should pay more attention, but they should pay more attention to utilize technology. There is no knowledge that is not out there. You can have a degree. I think you can even have a PhD online. There are so many courses, short courses, things to do. So the era of where government needs to invest in classrooms, call teachers, where they teach you what to do is slowly phasing out. Everything you need. So youth should try to engage more of their time in useful activities, utilizing technology. How do we ensure more children are kept in schools and reduce out of school numbers? Like I said earlier on, if you restructure the country and education, which it is right now, but education becomes the primary responsibility of the state government and local government, and states are competing, you find out that states will try to improve the quality of education in each state. That is the way to do it. Federal government is heavily burdened in investing in primary school education. Though they intervene, it's not really their responsibility. Who will curb the use of imported arms across borders? It's currently the responsibility, it's a joint responsibility. It's supposed to be immigration. Immigration are there, customs are there, the police are there, the DSS are there. But we have, as at the last count, we have that, and this is for cars, we have over 1,000 illegal routes into Nigeria, and that is from the northern side, and I think from the western side. Over 1,000 routes. Now, we're not even talking about through the Atlantic Ocean from the seas. Now, you cannot man 1,000 borders with men without the appropriate technology, one, because you need drones to check movement, that is one. The second thing, you need to have a strong cooperation with our neighboring countries. Today, you will see so many conflicting figures about how many amount of fuel we consume. Today, you hear 30 million liters. In the next 2 years, you hear 50 million liters. Why? Between you and I, Frederick, you and I will have not bought new cars. So what is going on? Because if you do the calculation, you find that every Nigerian ought to have like 3 or 4 cars to consume that fuel. Where is it going to? It's going to our border countries. That is why, because they can't solve the problem, they want to remove subsidy. They can't solve the problem because our consumption, of course, is doubled. So we have to have a strong relationship with our neighbors. So far, it has not really worked in terms of this smuggling of petrol. It has not worked. So maybe subsidy has to go for the next government. But for the arms, we need to have strong cooperation with them, because if you look at, even the president said most of the arms is from Libya. That is true. But Libya does not share a border with Nigeria. It has to go through 2 countries to come to Nigeria. What are those countries doing to assist Nigeria in stopping those arms from coming? Much has been done, but more needs to be done, because it's still a transit route for those arms. Same for human trafficking. A lot of our girls use that same route to go to the Mediterranean and cross over to Europe. What are those countries helping in stopping our young, able girls from using that route for these things? And they pose a security threat, because most of the time you hear arms trafficking, it goes to 2 other things. Drugs trafficking will come, human trafficking will come. So you have to solve the 3 at the same time. And you can't do this without your neighbors. So we have to strengthen our foreign policy regarding our neighboring countries. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Yakubu, for these insightful contributions. Our time is fast spent, but I still have one hand raised. Mr. Ishola Williams, is there a question or a contribution that you have for us?
Let me just
Yes, can you make it very quickly, sir? Thank you, sir.
See, there's a national security policy that contains kinetic and non-kinetic programs for Nigeria. That's a matter of reading that. Second thing, the mere fact that the National Assembly appropriates money for national security and all the elements under national security means that it's a legal structure. Thirdly, there's a big intelligence coordination agency in the Office of National Security, with officers from civil defense, customs, and everybody there. Thirdly, there's a whole office also for counterterrorism and counter-insurgency in the same place. Okay. So all those structures exist. Now, there's also the civil defense that was created for disasters and emergency and so on. All the security agencies have intelligence arms. Now, when you then talk about small arms, there's a center for small arms, which has just been legislated by the National Assembly in the Office of National Security Advisor. It is impossible to police every border in any country in the world. Technology, yes, but you've forgotten one thing also. If the people who man the technology are corrupt and who do not pay so much attention to their job, arms can come in. But I want to say something very quickly. Arms coming from Libya is not too true. That has stopped a long time ago. And even then, when I was on the UN, 2 panels came here to Nigeria to check about arms coming from Libya. Little evidence, UN report. And let me make the last point about small arms. We know that even if you look at the case of Boko Haram, ISWAP, and things like that, they capture so many arms from Nigerian armed forces, from Chadian armed forces. So how do you stop that? Okay. And Niger and co, they suffer the same problem that we suffer, insurgency and terrorism. It's only recently that ECOWAS says we are going to create a regional force to look at some of these problems, stop terrorism and counterinsurgency, because it's spreading to Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. There's a whole lot of things that are happening. People need to have certain knowledge of these issues, be able to look at the gaps, and then to be able to advise the next government that is coming in. But the most important issue in this is that we are not thinking, and therefore we need to reorganize completely our security structure. About Homeland Security, the Ministry of Internal Security was created. United States never had that before. We had it before United States. Organize the place properly, functional, and then some of these issues. Thank you for giving the floor.
Thank you so much, sir, for this contribution. We really appreciate you for that. I mean, it has enriched our conversation this afternoon. So let me just use opportunity to appreciate our speakers, Mr. Umar, Yakubu, mine. Honestly, I'm so blown away personally, and I'm very sure that everybody that's listened to you this afternoon has learned so much. I am so blown away. Thank you. You're so, I mean, the points that you've made, the way you've broken down the issues, you know, and I just hope that this point in the next administration, that some of the points that you've made will get into the hands of the next administration, because I believe very strongly that we have what it takes to fix our country. We have the human resources, we have the skills, we have the knowledge within, to actually address a lot of those problems. So if we can, have, leaders that are willing to listen to people like yourself, I believe that we'll be able to make progress. And I also want to appreciate our other speaker. I'm not sure he's not back, Dr. Tope Fasua, for his contribution, particularly on the issue of poverty, and also appreciating everyone that has spoken, everyone that sent in questions and also typed their contributions into the chat box. Thank you so much. Thank you. And for the participants as well that stayed through from the beginning to the end, thank you. We're going to make the video available on our YouTube channel as quickly as possible so that others can also benefit from the conversation that we've had this afternoon. We're going to continue to, talk about different aspects of our issues, and then with the aim of preferring solutions and seeing how we can, reposition our country. That is the aim of the Madiba webinar series. And so I hope the next time you get our invitation, you will be here. Looking forward to continue the engagement with each and every one of you. Thank you. I also want to appreciate my team. Ozohu, thank you for supporting always. Thank you to Jessica. Kunle is here. Emmanuel is here. Thank you, every one of you. And thank you to board members of Madiba Foundation that are here. Thank you for your support always. God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Mr. Yakubu, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.